You're listening to Week in Review on 90.3 WRST, the radio station of the Titans. Week in Review is a 30-minute student-run news program that focuses on stories from the UW Oshkosh campus, the city of Oshkosh, state and national headlines, as well as a weekend weather forecast. Week in Review can be heard every Friday from 5 to 5:30 p.m. on 90.3 WRST-FM, the Radio FX app, or streamed on 90.3 WRST.org. This week's news starts now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Friday. It is great to be here for yet another episode of Week in Review for the spring 2024 semester. I'm your host and WRST News Director Jacob Link, and as usual, tonight we will have a bunch of students who will be contributing their voices on the show, state and national headlines, a sports report from Devin Mahalik, and a weekend weather forecast. We have a lot of news to discuss tonight as Wisconsin held its presidential primary and spring elections on Tuesday. The universities of Wisconsin will be increasing tuition for its state schools, and a judge rejected Donald Trump's bid to delay his April 15th hush money trial until the Supreme Court rules on presidential immunity claims. That's all coming up in this edition of Week in Review. Let's get right into the top stories of the week on and around the UWO campus. Jumping right into some campus news, Universities of Wisconsin President Jay Rothman and the Board of Regents announced April 4th that all UW campuses will be raising its resident tuition by an average of 3.75% for the 2024-25 academic year. According to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Rothman said that the tuition increase would generate $39 million annually to keep pace with rising costs. UW Oshkosh students will see their tuition raised by $450, a 2.6 increase from this year's tuition costs. UWO's tuition hike is the second lowest in the state, but students will now have to pay $17,601 for 1 year at the university. UWO Chancellor Andrew Levitt said in an email that he was proud to announce the tuition increase was the second lowest in the system. Levitt said, quote, "Students choose UW Oshkosh for a multitude of reasons, and affordability is certainly one of them. As we work towards successful closure of our structural deficit, we remain committed to achieving financial stability, but not on the backs of our students," end quote. Wisconsin's spring elections wrapped up on Tuesday. Taylor Carling has more.
On Tuesday, April 2nd, Wisconsin held its presidential primary and spring election. Voters selected their preferences for president and weighed in on two referendum questions that could change how Wisconsin runs elections. Sarah Lear from Wisconsin Public Radio said a yes vote on question 1 would bar private donations and grants from being used to run elections in the state. A yes vote on question 2 would specify that only election officials could carry out tasks needed to run an election. Races for local offices also took place in certain areas of the state to vote for mayors, school board members, and city council leaders. Several races took place in the Oshkosh area, which included voting for 3 seats on the Oshkosh Common Council and 3 seats on the Oshkosh School Board. Voting closed at 8 p.m. on Tuesday, and the results of the election are now in. Donald Trump won the Republican primary with 79.2% of the votes, and Joe Biden won the Democratic primary with 88.6% of the votes. For the referendum questions about how Wisconsin runs elections, 54.4% of voters chose a yes vote on question 1 to prohibit private funding of elections. Chris Larson, DJ Nichols, and Jacob Flom won seats on the Oshkosh Common Council, and Beth Wyman, Timothy Hess, and Chris Wright won seats on the Oshkosh School Board. This is Taylor Calling with WRST News.
The UW Oshkosh gymnastics team became the 4th program in the history of the National Collegiate Gymnastics Association to win 3 consecutive national championships after the Titans scored an NCGA record of 194.975 points at the national meet held March 23rd in Collegeville, Pennsylvania. UWO head coach Lauren Carnett said she had a lot of nerves when the judges were releasing their scores at the NCGA National Championship, but she made sure her athletes didn't see it.
When we were on beam, I was so nervous because that's the event that I coach and also has the highest margin of error. But man, they didn't seem nervous at all. That beam looked like it was 12 inches wide instead of just 4. They were doing it very confidently. But again, that goes back to our training. And I should have known that we train them for that. You know, we make them do as a group as many routines as they can. And in 20 minutes, and so they know how to be put into their out of their comfort zone, and clearly the training worked, but I was super nervous.
UWO broke the NCGA record previously set by UW Whitewater January 19th. For the second time in 3 years at the national meet, the Titans set the NCGA record for points scored after accumulating 194.1 points to claim the 2022 national championship. The Titans now own 5 NCGA titles, along with 2 other national titles from the Association of Intercollegiate Athletics for Women in 1980 and the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics in 1986. Carnett said her third national championship is just as sweet as the first one.
The first one was just proving to ourselves that we could get there, right? With COVID and everything, that first one meant a lot because it was like we actually could break through.
Carnett said coaching UWO to a national championship in 2021 allowed the team to have the belief that the program could get that far after the 2010s were dominated by Whitewater and lacrosse.
The third one really solidified our spot. The second one was more like, thank God we did it again. It wasn't a fluke the first time,
Yeah.
But the third one, to win in the fashion that we did, it was pretty special because of the fact that we won so many individual event champions and we won as a team. That made it, it just will be a very special championship in my mind.
Not only did the Titans win their third title, they did it in dominating fashion by earning the highest total score in 3 out of the 4 exercises in a competition that included Whitewater, lacrosse, UW Stout, SUNY Brockport, and SUNY Cortland. UWO's best score was in the floor exercise, where they scored 49.2 points. Oshkosh's Mia Lucero took home first place in the event with a score of 9.9. UWO's Rihanna McGibney and Jay Retkowski finished behind her, tying for second and fifth place, respectively. As a team, the Titans also placed first in the vault with a score of 48.65 points. Lucero once again claimed the top spot in the event after tying with Marin Eramo for first place with a score of 9.825. McGibney took third place in the vault with a score of 9.8. On the balance beam, UWO once again took home first place as a team by totaling 48.75 points. Oshkosh's Emily Buffington tied for second place in the event with a score of 9.825, while both Kaylee Behrens and Anna Zaromsky tied for fifth place with 2 9.8 scores. The only exercise in which the Titans didn't take home the top spot was in the uneven parallel bars, where UWO finished in second place with a score of 48.375. Oshkosh still had an event winner on the bars, with Buffington claiming the top spot with a score of 9.850. Carnett said the program expects to welcome a talented freshman class for next season.
I think that we're going to upgrade some of our skills. We have a couple of them that want to improve on those. I think we'll stay consistent with a lot of our lineup.
Carnett said that she's pretty confident that Oshkosh will at least be contenders for a 4th straight national championship next year. The Department of Transportation is closing sections of I-41 this week through Winnebago County. Matthew Glocka has more.
The Wisconsin Department of Transportation Northeast Region reminds motorists that a full closure of northbound I-41 at Wisconsin 114, County JJ in the city of Neenah is currently going on. As always, it is expected to be ready to take detours. Make sure you plan accordingly on when you leave, depending on where you need to travel. And if you have work or reservations, make sure you take the proper precaution on when you travel and how you travel. Traffic report for weekend closures on Friday, April 5th. Southbound I-41 to off-ramp Wisconsin 125 County CA will be closed from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Southbound I-41 on-ramp from Wisconsin 125 County CA will be closed from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Northbound I-41 off-ramp to County II ramp closed from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Saturday, April 6th, northbound I-41 at County II interchange is closed from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Some detours for the Saturday closure. For the closure of northbound I-41 at County II interchange, a detour is available. Take the exit at northbound I-41 off-ramp to County II and re-enter via northbound on-ramp from County II. These closures are scheduled to improve road conditions and ensure safety. Please plan your travel accordingly and consider alternative routes to avoid delays. And always remember, drive safely. For WRST News, I'm Matthew Glocka.
Heading right into our state news, power is still out for tens of thousands of people in Wisconsin after this week's winter storm. Wisconsin Public Service and We Energies report that over 50,000 customers remain without power as of noon on Thursday. Both agencies have crews out in the field and are hoping to have most customers reconnected by Friday. Over 100,000 customers were without power at the height of this week's storm. Uncertainty remains about district maps for certain elections in Wisconsin. Bob Haag has more.
The state Supreme Court on Wednesday denied a request from the Wisconsin Elections Commission to clarify which maps should be used for any recall or special elections between now and this fall. That leaves things up in the air, maps-wise, for a potential recall against Assembly Speaker Robin Vos and a special election to fill a state Senate seat in Milwaukee. The court's liberal majority found the lines in place in 2022 were unconstitutional. New maps Governor Tony Evers signed into law don't take effect until this fall. At the Capitol, Bob Haag, Wisconsin Radio Network.
Former President Donald Trump was in Green Bay for a campaign rally Tuesday evening. Trump accused the administration of President Joe Biden of obstructing his run for office.
Joe Biden and his thugs are so desperate to stop us, they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. That's why they're weaponizing law enforcement, high-level election interference against Biden's top political opponent. Who does that happen to be? Me, here I am.
Trump also endorsed Wisconsin Republican U.S. Senate candidate Eric Hovde, who is challenging Democratic incumbent Senator Tammy Baldwin. Milwaukee County deputies are investigating a human leg found near Lake Michigan on Tuesday. Deputies say the leg was found in or near the water of a public golf course at Warnemont Park in Cudahy. It's unclear who the leg belonged to, but the case is being handled as a death investigation. The sheriff's department is not releasing further information. President Joe Biden will be back in Wisconsin next week. Bob Haag has more.
Biden will be in Madison on Monday to talk about lowering costs for Americans. The White House announced the visit as Wisconsin voters headed to the polls for primary election day Tuesday and hours before Donald Trump had a campaign rally in Green Bay. The event will be Biden's third trip this year to Wisconsin and his 10th as president. Last month, Biden was in Milwaukee to announce new federal funding for transportation infrastructure. In February, he was in Superior, announcing federal funding for a major bridge project. Bob Haag, Wisconsin Radio Network.
That does it for our local and state news. We'll now step aside for a quick break. When we return, we'll have our national headlines, the Student Voices section of the program, and a weekend weather forecast. You're listening to Week in Review on 90.3 WRST-FM Oshkosh.
So let me get this straight. You're a college student who is slammed with schoolwork and the last thing you're thinking about is listening to the radio. Or you're a parent and you have your hands full with the kids, your job, and you're going from the first alarm. Download the Radio FX app today and listen to 90.3 WRST on the go. Listen to the radio station of the Titans anywhere, anytime with the Radio FX app.
April 4th through the 8th is Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week in Wisconsin. On April 7th at 1:45 p.m. and 6:45 p.m., Wisconsin will conduct its annual statewide tornado drill. Everyone is encouraged to pause what they are doing and practice going to their designated shelter location. If there is severe weather expected anywhere in the state on April 7th, the practice drill will be delayed until April 8th. For more information, go to readywisconsin.wi.gov.
Keep on shuffling with us at 90.3 WRST-FM. the radio station of the Titans. 90.3 WRST, the best in college alternative.
Welcome back to Week in Review. I'm your host and news director, Jacob Link. Let's get right into the second half of our program with our national news. Kicking off our national and international news, a judge on Wednesday rejected Donald Trump's bid to delay his April 15th hush money criminal trial until the Supreme Court rules on presidential immunity claims. Manhattan Judge Juan Mercan declared the request untimely, ruling that Trump's lawyers had myriad opportunities to raise the immunity issue before they finally did so last month, well after a deadline for pretrial motions had already passed. Mercan wrote in a 6-page decision that the timing of the defense's March 7th ruling raises real questions about the sincerity and actual purpose of the motion. Today, President Joe Biden spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about the humanitarian aid crisis in Gaza due to the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. NPR's Lakshmi Singh has more.
The White House confirms a phone call today between President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It says the U.S. strongly supports its ally in its defense against Hamas, but days after 7 food aid workers were killed, the White House says Biden urged Netanyahu to take measurable steps to address civilian harm and the safety of aid staff attempting to alleviate the hunger crisis in Gaza. Biden calls the Israeli strikes unacceptable. Speaking from Brussels, Secretary of State Antony Blinken was on the call with the two leaders today.
Here's the current reality in Gaza. Despite important steps that Israel has taken to allow assistance into Gaza, the results on the ground are woefully insufficient and unacceptable. 100% of the population in Gaza knows acute levels of food insecurity.
It's NPR News.
Multiple international aid organizations are suspending operations in Gaza following the deaths of several aid workers who were with the World Central Kitchen. NPR's Windsor Johnson has the details.
Chris Skopek is the executive vice president of U.S.-based Project Hope. He says his organization needs assurances before resuming its work in Gaza.
We are looking very closely at how Israel has responded. We're looking at how the U.S. government is responding. We want to know that there's going to be some level of recognition and accountability that humanitarian aid workers are legitimate actors in Gaza and under international humanitarian law should and must be protected.
The World Central Kitchen vehicles were struck by a series of missiles despite having coordinated their movements with the Israeli military. Windsor Johnston, NPR News.
Russia's defense minister warned his French counterpart against deploying troops to Ukraine in a phone call Wednesday and noted that Moscow is ready to take part in talks to end the conflict. Sergei Shoigu told French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu that if Paris follows up on its statements about the possibility of sending a French military contingent to Ukraine, it will, quote, create problems for France itself, according to a statement from the Russian Defense Ministry. The conversation followed French President Emmanuel Macron's comments in February in which he said that the possibility of Western troops being sent to Ukraine cannot be ruled out. The call marked the first such contact between Russian and French defense ministries since October 2022. Shoigu noted Moscow's readiness for dialogue on Ukraine, emphasized that a planned round of peace talks in Geneva would be senseless without Russia's involvement. He added that possible future negotiations could be based on a draft document which was discussed during Russia-Ukraine talks in Istanbul in March 2022. Media reports have said that the draft negotiated in Istanbul weeks after Moscow sent troops into Ukraine envisioned that Ukraine would abandon its bid to join NATO and remain neutral. No final deal was reached, and the talks collapsed quickly after. That does it for the national and international headlines. Just before we get into our Student Voices portion of the show, here's WRST Sports Director Devin Mahalik with the week's biggest headlines in sports.
For WRST Sports Weekend Review, I am Devin Mahalik. With 2 wins over St. Norbert College at the UW Oshkosh Recplex on Thursday afternoon, April 4th, the Titans softball team is on the hottest start in program history with an 18-0 record. UWO defeated the Green Knights of St. Norbert College 4-1 in Game 1 and 8-0 in 6 innings in Game 2. Since the games were originally slated to play in De Pere, the Titans battled as the home team in the first game, and St. Norbert battled as the home team in Game 2. Abby Friesmuth, the senior from Fond du Lac, started in the circle for the Titans in the first game, pitching 7 innings against the Green Knights. Friesmuth delivered 10 strikeouts while allowing 7 hits and 1 earned run. Hannah Ritter, the first baseman for the Titans, the All-American, went 1 for 4 in Game 1 with a double, which scored a run. Sophie Weary, the catcher, went 2 for 3 in Game 1, also doubling in a run. Both the 4 and 5 hitters combined for 2 RBIs, which were half of the runs scored in Game 1. In Game 2, the Titans were led by an impressive no-hitter by Brianna Bogey with a 2-0 record this season. She went 6 scoreless innings, striking out 1 batter and giving up 1 walk. The Titans will travel and face Marian University on Wednesday, April 10th for doubleheader action, with the first game and first pitch set for 4 p.m. at the Sabres Smith Field. The Milwaukee Brewers are off to a great start in the 2024 campaign, currently owning a 4-1 record overall in the regular season, second place in the National League Central Division, right behind the Buccos of Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Pirates are 6-1. They're also off to a great hot start. The Brewers started the year with a sweep at New York. The Metropolitans, they paid a visit, sweeping the Mets in 3 games. They then hosted the Minnesota Twins for a 2-game home rivalry across the border, the western border dividing Minnesota and Milwaukee. They split that series 1-1. They win Game 1, the Brewers' opening day game, 3-2, and they fall in that second game, 7-3. Brewers' sensational rookie Jackson Chourio making his debut. He is now the youngest to lace him up in Major League Baseball. Jackson Chourio, in his first ever Major League press conference, was asked the pressure he faced. Jackson Chourio discusses to the media about his first at-bat as a Major League player.
La verdad que no me sentía nervioso, solamente sentía que tenía que quedar un hit solamente, pero no sentía nada de presión.
No, I really didn't feel any nerves, feel any pressure there. Kind of felt like I needed to get a hit, and so I was able to get on base for the team.
The Milwaukee Brewers will host the Seattle Mariners this weekend starting tonight, Friday, April 5th. Freddie Peralta squares up against Logan Gilbert of the Mariners. First pitch is scheduled for 7:10 p.m. For WRST Sports, I am Devin Mahalik.
That does it for sports. Now it's time for Week in Review's Student Voices portion of the show. I'm here live at the WRST-FM studios with Nolan Swenson, a political science student at UW Oshkosh. Nolan, first off, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jacob?
I'm doing pretty good, and I'm glad to have you on the air as one of our guests for the semester's Week in Review show. Now, Nolan, I understand that you're a community advisor, also known as a CA, in Evans Hall. What exactly is a CA, and what role do they play in the dorms?
Well, I'm sure you guys have heard your parents talk about RAs. That's basically equivalent. A CA or an RA, we use CA here. We serve both as to make sure that everybody is following the rules of the dorm, as well as the community advisor role. That means that we're making sure that people are going out, we're making sure that people are being friendly, and just that residence life is welcoming to all students.
So then what made you want to be a CA?
The benefits, and not just the, of course, financial benefits, free room and board, but the leadership benefits. You're able to get into an entry-level position that will both increase your capacity to work simultaneously with school, but then you put that on a resume, it's amazing. You're able to be a community leader while also doing real schoolwork, and places will see that and love it.
And what kind of bonds have you been able to form with some of your residents?
Well, I'm not going to pretend like I know all of my residents, like all their careers, all their dreams and aspirations. But every once in a while you meet a few and you're able to really rear them up. We have a mutual friend, as you know, Sawyer Moons. And Sawyer, he's a poli-sci student. He's going to be going to law school. He's currently in the Pre-Law Society, which I'm the president of. And I really brought him into the fold of the organization, and I'm loving seeing how he develops.
So can you tell me a little bit more about the Pre-Law Society? I did not know that you were a part of the Pre-Law Society.
Pre-Law Society is, as I'm sure you guys have noticed, we do not have an actual law school on campus. So we need to really fill in those gaps for the students who care to go to law school. Pre-Law Society is where a bunch of us come together and we try and generate interest and knowledge around law school. So it's kind of serves as preparatory for the graduate school, as well as also just helps you decide if that's a course of life that you want to take.
And then what kind of events does pre-law have, and how can a student get involved?
Well, to get involved, look up my name on Outlook, email me, and then I will most certainly get back to you. And the events that we do, they're scattered. We have to be scattered in order to get a really wide thing. Our next event, we're going to be having DJ Nichols, the guy who just won the seat in the Oshkosh City Council. He's going to be coming and talking about his time as an attorney, or currently his work as an attorney with Great Wolf Lodge and employment law. But looking back, we did a case brief with the pre-law advisor and some other preparatory work for law school that you just won't get in a class because we don't have classes, or at least a tie with an actual law school to get you taking your LSAT or studying for your LSAT or looking at different law schools.
So now, switching topics, next weekend, unofficially starting April 12th, the biannual off-campus drinking festival held in Oshkosh, known as Pub Crawl, will begin. Can you tell our audience exactly what Pub Crawl is and what your experience with it has been?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what all this pub crawl is about, but I know that me and some of the friends will be most likely watching some cartoons in the morning, going for long, happy walks in the afternoon, and then probably not falling asleep till way too late. So I can't say any specific comments, but it will be an amazing time.
You know, what have you heard from other students pertaining to Pub Crawl? What kind of goes on there?
So it's just a whole lot of outside partying. At least for most people can't go to the bars who actually want to do pub crawl. So it's parties everywhere. But then of course cops are going to be everywhere. So just trying to be smart while you're out darting, as we call it, daytime partying.
So now obviously you are a CA with UWO. What residence life policies will be in place for Pub Crawl that students need to know about?
So you will not be able to have any non-UWO guests in the dorm, as well as parking is severely limited. People cannot buy guest passes for the parking. So, and then security stations full-time, there's going to be a lot more security going on. The big word is security, so just making sure that everybody is safe.
Well, that does it for us with the Student Voices portion of Week in Review. Now here's your weekend weather forecast on 90.3 WRST-FM Oshkosh. Taking a look at the weather, tonight will be mostly clear with a low of 28 degrees. Saturday will be sunny with a high near 48 with winds reaching 8 miles per hour. Saturday night will be mostly clear with a low of around 33 degrees. Rain comes into the forecast for Sunday with a 60% chance of precipitation after 2 p.m. Temperatures on Sunday will reach as high as 48 degrees during the day and as low as 39 at night. We will see temperatures climb into the early stages of next week with highs on Monday and Tuesday reaching at least 55 degrees. This has been your 90.3 WRST-FM weekend weather forecast. That will be it for this week's edition of Week in Review. I am your host and WRST News Director, Jacob Link. You can listen to 90.3 WRST on our website at 90.3WRST.org or the Radio FX app. To listen on the app, make sure you type in 90.3 WRST or University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. Also, make sure to check our news website at WRST.org for local news updates throughout the week. I'm News Director Jacob Link signing off for Week in Review. You're listening to 90.3 WRST-FM Oshkosh.